Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. My name is Salma. I'm a mom of 6. I'm a simplicity parenting coach and I'm a homeschool mom. And today I want to talk about homeschool planning, how that looks like in our family. Welcome back to our channel. So I did a video, I actually wanted to do a video with one of my children and walk you through the process as we're doing it, like, make like a live documentation of the process. But the said child did not want to be filmed, did not want to be on video. So then I thought of doing, like a summary, but same thing, said child did not want any personal details revealed about them, even not who they are, what the ages are, and any of that stuff. So then I was thinking, okay, but I would certainly like to share, not because, I like to overshare about my family, but rather because I really benefited from watching videos as such, when I was a young homeschool mom, when I was looking how to plan my year, right? And I don't see often how the process is really done, right? There is curriculum recommendations, there is the day in the life kind of thing, but I haven't seen anything that's close to our process, how it's done. So I wanted to share that in hopes that it might help a new mom or somebody who is in the process of homeschooling or considering homeschooling, just to see how we do it in our family. Okay, so we're talking here about elementary school age children, but you could do this with any child, starting from preschool, grade 1, grade 12 even. We have been homeschooling throughout, but the key here is the collaboration in the process, right? So part of the process are done on my own and part of it's done in collaboration with the children. And we are unschoolers, which means we don't follow a set curriculum. We kind of really believe that learning happens organically. So I want to kind of show you what that looks like in practice, or how we do it in our family. Right now, our way does not mean we judge your choices. So I hope you guys just will benefit from this little slice of our life, and how we get it done. So first of all, I'm a pen and a paper kind of person. So I have just this spiral notebook that I use for such purposes, right? And so basically I will just jot down the child's name, the age, because I have multiple children, right? So I do this one child at a time, the whole process, right? And so I will have a sit down with myself first, and I will write down, some basics, the date of birth. Not that I don't know my age, the ages of my kids, I do, but I like to keep a record of this, kind of thing. And so, I think you can hear the neighbors' kids in the background. I was trying to find a quiet corner, but I guess everybody's out at this time. Let's see if it's possible to keep recording. So I will write down the basic information of these kids. All right, so lots of background noise. Let's see if this location works out. I just really wanted to record out in the greenery, but too much noise maybe. Anyway, so I will start with some basic information about the said child. What is their age? When is their next milestone coming up, right? Are they turning a certain age? I tend to do this a couple times throughout the year. I do it naturally in the summer as we're planning sort of the next school year, just to kind of have an idea. And in the summer, it's a bit of off time, right? And so I do it anytime there's a transition as well in our lives. If we're traveling, or if we've come back, or, if some big event has happened, just to kind of as a way to reset, right? So now it's the summer, the wedding's over, you can see in the other video, and so we are just kind of resetting and just kind of figuring out what's next, right? So I will start with that child, and I will write down sort of my assessment of where that child is at, what's going on with them, what are their obvious interests, what are they spending their time on, right? And so this will differ from child to child. It will be basically like a triage, like you're taking a pulse, right? And so you'll write down the obvious. They're playing such and such game, or they're really into reading, or they're playing video games, or this is what they're really into this season. They really like the sports, or they're into football, or they like to knit, or so you would kind of just write down the basics. And I like to focus on the strengths of that child, right? I don't start out with weaknesses. Everybody's got strengths and weaknesses, right? So I like to put all strengths out there. Like, are they active? Are they running around? This is a good thing, right? Or if they're quiet, they're more on the quiet side, how are they spending their days in quiet contemplation, right? And so you would kind of write down an assessment of where that particular child is at, right? And when you do this regularly, right, like, you would kind of have an idea what's happening with your children. And you don't have to be a homeschooler to do this, but for us it's essential because it helps us then align their academics, with the general vibe of what's happening in the family, right? And so I'll start with that assessment, what's going on with them. I will start also with where we're currently at. If we're traveling, like currently we're in Bosnia, so I will write down that this is happening in Bosnia. How's the weather? Are we active? Like, what's this general current state of affairs, so to speak, right? And then I will kind of try to put some of the weaknesses or some of the struggles. I will keep it in a bullet point form. I would say struggling with bedtime, if it's a young child, or I will say struggling with, I don't know, screen time, right? Or struggling with chores, or whatever it is that I perceive to be a particular challenge for that child at the moment. And that could be also the relationship to me or me to the child. So sometimes it's like, hey, struggling relationship, right? Something is off here. We're arguing too much. We're fighting over the basics too much, right? Like, something's going on. So this will kind of help me start. It's basically like an assessment. Again, my assessment. You can do this with your spouse. They could also participate in the process, so you could do it with them, where they kind of put their view of the child, right? Like, what's going on with them. Now, this is very subjective, okay? I freely admit that, because in homeschooling water, so to speak, we are together all day long, right? And there is potential that I'm misjudging some of the situations, right? But this is kind of where I'm at, right? That's where I'm starting out with the process of preparing for the next year, right? The next part is I will kind of take some of the subjects that are meant to be happening at this age and just kind of jot down the subjects and then kind of see what can I put under each headline, right? So we've got language arts, we've got math, we've got science, we've got history, we've got the arts, and then we've got physical education. Those are like the main ones, right? And of course we've got religion, which can include Quran learning and Hifz and any other, religiously related subjects, right? And so I will take those subjects that are this is the output, right? This is what we need to show the results, right? Has that child done any math? Has that child done any reading? What's going on? And then I will kind of try to fill in the blanks based on my observation. I will put under science, that child's been really interested in the weather, right? Or I will put under history, they've been asking me questions about the Second World War, or they're asking me about the political situation, or they're asking me about how computers work, right? Like, I will kind of put an assessment where I think their interest lies. And so again, this is done on my own, and then I will invite that said child for a collaboration, right? And so that will mean different things based on different ages. If they are high school age, we can have a proper sit down. They can pull out their notebooks, they can pull out their records, we can compare notes, we can then be very specific. We can say, hey, have you read such and such book? Where is your Goodreads list? Are you keeping track of your reading? What about the online courses you've been taking, right? Like, it can be a very, very business-like meeting. With younger children, obviously it will be more playful, right? Like, if you have a young child, they're not going to know how to tell you what they've done for science. This is where you kind of have to a little bit dig, and then you can say, hey, it seems like you're interested in bugs lately, right? Or you're really wondering how the body works, right? And so another plane here. Lots of noise today. Let's see. Hopefully we can complete this video without too many interruptions. I don't know if I know how to edit at this point, so inshallah khair. Okay, so then I will invite the child for collaboration. Now, in a big family, this will look like a one-on-one session, right? Like last night, I sat with one of my kids and then we just kind of went through. I will take a big blank paper, kind of to give ourselves permission to use it as a scrap paper, because we tend to have perfectionist tendencies in the family. We want everything to be perfect and neat, and so if we just use a big scrap paper, that gives us permission to just put random thoughts on it, right? And then we'll go through the subjects together. Then we will kind of say, hey, what's going on with language arts, what kind of books have you been reading, and and that's part of the process to just kind of see where they're at. The second part is like, what are they interested in to pursue further? So this will be a moment in where I will jot down things like, hey, I read this book, but I'm interested in part 2, or that really was not to my liking, I think I would like to try something else, right? So this is the part where we also listen to them and their interests, like what are they interested in. Now sometimes you'll have a child who will say they're not interested in anything. It's not like we have perfect environments, and this is why I wish I could have shown you how the real session looks like, but until I catch a child that's willing to participate on camera, I don't know how long that will take. So until then, it'll be just me walking you through the process. So we will just kind of talk about what are they interested in. And this is where I will say some of the older children might say, hey, I'm interested in taking an online class. Or they will say, I need a tutor for this. Or I will say, hey, I don't know much about that subject. Let's see who we could ask. Maybe we have a neighbor who could help us with this, or where could we research, right? Because we don't have all the answers, right? But it's a collaborative process of, where they would like to go and how does that look like. Now with younger kids, I might give them some prompts, if they've been doing math, right? If they've been doing counting till 100 or some simple addition or, things like that, I can say, hey, you've been doing some baking, that also counts as math, right? Just to kind of prompt them to think about, because when they say, for example, I don't know, I'm not interested, right? I might look for real life examples where they're actually utilizing that skill that they think they don't know anything about or that they're not interested in, particularly with things like science or history, right? That people might think that doesn't come naturally to kids, but actually if you listen to them, they are interested in so many different things, right? And so this is just a way to kind of put us together on the same page. So this takes about an hour, 2 hours, depending how eager your kids are and if they're used to the process, right? And we can kind of sit together. And sometimes if they're not interested, I don't push it. Sometimes I'll be like, okay, don't worry about it. Like we can talk about it later. Or, when an opportunity presents itself, or they will come later on and tell me maybe about a specific subject. And then I will go back and kind of write it down on our scrap paper kind of working kind of thing. And then we will go through it one more time, but now with kind of planning mode. What does that look like now for the next year? If a child has expressed they want to take an online class, that means I have to do some admin, right? Like I have to find the class. I have to see if this is feasible. Does it fit financially with our plans? Does it fit with a schedule? If they've expressed the desire to do some activity, we talk about through the logistics, do you need a ride? Do you need transportation? How many times a week is it? Can we afford it? Because, sometimes you'll have kids who want to do everything, and then just sometimes there will be a reality that we cannot do everything. And sometimes you will have a child that doesn't want to do anything. You kind of have to push them a little bit out of their comfort zone. Again, try it out, see if you like it. Oh, you don't want to do that again. Okay, let's not push it, right? These kind of discussions, right? And so that will then leave us with an idea what they want to pursue. Let's say they say they want to learn more about the human body. Now, depending on their age, I will then look for appropriate resources. And so I am more of a facilitator rather than a teacher, right? Like I'm kind of just guiding them in the right direction. A lot of times they will have lots of good ideas themselves, right? And so this might seem like it's too idealistic if you haven't tried it, or if your kids are not used to the process. A lot of parents will say, well, my kid doesn't know what they want. They don't want to do anything. They're just not interested, right? But try to approach it through their interest, right? I remember when one of my boys, he was in high school, and it seemed like he didn't want to write, right? There was nothing he was interested in, seemingly, but he was really into video games. So then all his essays ended up being about video games, and really good writing, right? In terms of like, does gaming cause kids to be violent, and research and things like that. So we used his interest to dig deeper in the subjects that he needed to know about, right? And so this is the same concept. You can use their interest. Now, sometimes they don't want to make their hobby into a research project, and that's okay too. So it's on you as a parent to kind of do the background research in terms of what's expected. And yet another plane. Today's a busy day here, it seems. Inshallah khair. I think I will finish off the video soon as it is. So basically, once that is done, once we've had a couple of these meetings, so one time, where I will sit on my own and just kind of brainstorm about the child, then a second time where we kind of sit together and collaborate, then maybe a third time where I will just kind of try to fine tune the details. Maybe we'll need a fourth meeting with my husband where we just kind of talk through like, hey, what do you think? This is what's going on. This is what they want to do. How can we make it happen for them? Or maybe we don't agree with what they want to do. So how can we make our case, right? And the idea is not to force them, but just to kind of to have that collaboration between us in the learning process and let them be the leaders in their learning process. And then they won't find learning a chore, right? They will have an agency, they will have autonomy as far as learning is considered. Now, certain things have to be done. So like particularly at high school level, if they need 3 science credits, right, for example, or 4 science credits, one of them would be maybe biology, right? And then we will sit and talk, and at that point kids are already older. We're talking here 15, 16, 17, right? And so then we can talk about, okay, you are going to need a biology credit. How can we make that happen for you in a way that works for you? Are you more of a visual learner? Do you want to listen to lectures? Do you want to tutor? Do you want to go hands-on and explore? How can we make biology more fun for you, right? And then we can kind of explore, or then, we can kind of dig some questions, that are part of that. So a parent needs to be part of this process more so, rather than just following a curriculum, but rather just kind of going with their interest and digging deeper how we can make it happen. Now, the process is not necessarily smooth. We sat here for over an hour last night in this particular corner, in my grape corner, and we discussed, and there was a lot of stuff that was kind of just being said, and I was taking note about where are their interests, what is it that they want to do, what are they feeling insecure about, what are they feeling proud of, what it is that they want to pursue, and then again, trying not to compare, because comparison is the thief of joy. So trying not to compare them to my other kids, trying to reassure them that they're on the right path, because they're sometimes questioning themselves, is this even legit, can this count as a credit? And so this is kind of the process. So I hope this makes it clear. I wish I could have recorded, a session that's, a working session, but I didn't want to make up a new child entirely and do a fake walkthrough. So I figured this would be enough just to kind of walk you through how we go through the process. So we still hit all the subjects. We still make sure all the learning happens. It's just in a way where children feel included and we can kind of follow their interests. And over the years, certain talents will emerge, certain strengths will definitely be there, and then we have the choice, are we going to help them with those strengths, or are we going to focus on the weaknesses? And sometimes children will come to you and say, hey, I'm not really feeling confident about this, can I get some help? And if you kind of manage to establish that kind of learning environment for your kids, this is a huge blessing, right? It takes time, of course, and a lot of it has to be parent-led in the early years. Like, you cannot just leave the kids to their own devices. You have to kind of lead with this idea that you're providing the support. If they ask you for something, if you expose them to a lot of things, they're not going to know if they like it or not. Like, you have to be the one exposing them to these things. But inshallah khair. This is the Asr Adhan. I don't know if you guys can hear it. I hope you do. My time to be finished here. Too much noise, too many interruptions today. I hope you guys enjoyed this little glimpse in how we plan our year, and inshallah I will be back with another video soon, inshallah, on why we even decided to pursue hifz with our kids. Inshallah, stay tuned for that. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.